What if spiritual awakening isn't what you think it is? What if the truth doesn't set you free, but slowly pulls you away from everything you once knew? No one talks about the hidden cost of awareness, the loneliness, the confusion, the quiet instability, because awakening isn't always light. Sometimes, it's the moment you realize you can never see the world the same way again. This is the truth about awakening that no one talks about. There comes a moment in some people's lives when ordinary reality begins to feel incomplete. Not wrong, not fake, just incomplete. It's a subtle feeling at first, easy to ignore if you stay busy enough. Most people do. Life moves quickly, and distractions are everywhere. Work, entertainment, conversations, all of it keeps the mind occupied. But sometimes, late at night, when everything becomes quiet, a strange thought appears. What if there's more to all of this? Not more success, not more money, not more achievements. Something deeper than that, something harder to explain. First, it might just be curiosity. Watching a video that makes you think. Reading something that challenges your assumptions. Hearing an idea that stays in your mind longer than expected. And then something unusual begins to happen. You start paying attention differently. Things you once ignored suddenly seem important. Patterns begin to stand out. Conversations sound more predictable. Reactions feel rehearsed. It's not that the world changes overnight. It's that your perception starts shifting. And perception changes everything. The same streets look different. The same routines feel different. Even the same people can feel different. It's like adjusting the focus on a camera lens. Nothing physically moves, but suddenly you see details that were always there. Details you somehow missed before. First, this feels exciting. There's a sense of discovery in it. You begin exploring ideas you never cared about before. Philosophy, consciousness, human behavior, the nature of reality itself. Questions lead to more questions. And every answer feels like it opens another door. It feels like progress, like growth, like you're finally starting to understand something important. But this is also where the first changes begin. Because when you start questioning the world, you don't just question the outside. You start questioning yourself, your beliefs, your habits, your reactions. Things you once accepted automatically now seem worth examining. Why do we think the way we do? Why do we follow certain paths? Why do we repeat the same patterns? These questions seem harmless at first, but questions have a way of digging deeper than expected. And eventually, they reach places inside you that aren't so easy to face. Because not everything inside us is clear and organized. Some parts are messy. Some parts are uncertain. Some parts were built without us even realizing it. Ideas picked up from childhood. Expectations absorbed from society. Fears learned through experience. All of these things shape how we see the world. And when you begin to notice them, something strange happens. You realize how much of your life has been automatic. Reactions instead of decisions. Habits instead of choices. Patterns instead of awareness. This realization can feel powerful, but it can also feel unsettling. Because once you see it, you can't really unsee it. And that's when awakening starts becoming less comfortable. At the beginning, it feels like gaining clarity. But clarity comes with consequences, because clarity removes illusions, and illusions aren't always negative. Sometimes illusions make life easier. They simplify things. They give structure. They create certainty. Without them, reality can feel much more open and much more uncertain. And uncertainty is something the human mind doesn't always enjoy. We like stability. We like knowing what things mean. We like having clear definitions. But awakening doesn't always give clear definitions. Sometimes it removes them. You begin to realize that many things don't have simple answers. That truth can be complicated. That reality can be layered. And that understanding takes time. This is where many people start feeling a quiet kind of tension. On the outside, life continues normally. Daily routines don't disappear. Responsibilities remain. Conversations continue. But internally, something is changing. You begin observing more than reacting, listening more than speaking, thinking more than assuming. And while that might sound peaceful, can also feel isolating, because your inner experience becomes harder to explain. You might try to share your thoughts with someone, but the words never quite match the feeling. It's like trying to describe a dream after waking up. The meaning feels clear inside your mind, but when you say it out loud, it sounds incomplete. So eventually, many people stop trying to explain, not because they want to hide, but because explanation becomes exhausting. And slowly, without even noticing it, a small distance forms. Not a physical distance, an internal one. You're still there with everyone else, still participating, still involved, but part of your awareness feels separate. Watching, observing, not disconnected, just different. And difference can feel lonely sometimes. Not always, but sometimes, because humans connect through shared understanding. And when your understanding begins to change, connection can feel different too. This is one of the first unexpected parts of awakening. It doesn't just change how you see the world. It changes how you experience it. Even simple things can feel unfamiliar. Old interests might fade. Old habits might feel meaningless. Things that once entertained you might no longer hold your attention. And that can be confusing, because you're not replacing those things immediately. You're just moving away from them, which creates a kind of empty space, a transition phase, a space between who you were and who you're becoming. And transitions are rarely comfortable. They're uncertain by nature. You don't fully belong to the past anymore. But the future version of yourself isn't fully formed yet. So you exist somewhere in between. And that in-between space can feel strange. Some days it feels peaceful. Other days it feels heavy. Some days it feels exciting. Other days it feels overwhelming. Because growth isn't always smooth. Sometimes it moves in waves. Understanding followed by confusion. Clarity followed by doubt. Progress followed by pause. And that's normal, even though it rarely gets talked about. Most people only talk about awakening as if it's a final destination, a moment of enlightenment, a permanent state of peace. But in reality, it's often a process, a long one, with phases that look very different from each other. And not all of those phases feel good. Some of them feel uncertain. Some feel uncomfortable. Some feel deeply challenging. Because awakening isn't just about discovering truth. It's about adjusting to it. And adjustment takes time, especially when the changes are happening internally. Because internal change doesn't always have clear milestones. No finish lines. No announcements. Just gradual shifts in perception. Gradual shifts in understanding. Gradual shifts in identity. Until one day, you realize you see the world differently than you used to. Not dramatically, not suddenly, but unmistakably. And that realization marks the true beginning, not the end. Because awakening isn't a single moment. It's a journey. And like any journey, comes with unexpected challenges. Challenges that most people never mention. One of the first things that changes during awakening is something most people don't expect. It's not your surroundings. It's not your routine. It's not even your life circumstances. It's the noise inside your mind. At first, the mind becomes louder. Questions appear constantly. Why do people act the way they do? Why do certain systems exist? Why does so much of life seem repetitive? The more you observe, the more you notice patterns. And once patterns become visible, it's difficult to ignore them. You start noticing how conversations often follow predictable paths, how opinions are repeated instead of examined, how reactions are triggered almost automatically. It's like watching a script unfold in real time. And at first, this realization can feel intense, almost overwhelming, because the world begins to feel more mechanical than it once did. Not fake, but structured, conditioned, programmed in subtle ways. You begin to see how habits form identities, how identities form groups, and how groups reinforce beliefs. It's a cycle that repeats everywhere, in schools, in workplaces, in social circles, even in families. And once you notice it, you see it everywhere. But here's where something unexpected happens. After the phase of intense questioning, silence begins to appear. Not external silence, internal silence. Moments where the constant thinking pauses. Moments where observation replaces analysis. Moments where you simply watch. At first, these moments are brief, just a few seconds here and there. But over time, they become longer. And in those quiet moments, something shifts. You begin experiencing reality directly instead of interpreting it constantly. Sounds feel clearer. Spaces feel deeper. Time feels slower. Not because time itself changes, but because attention changes. Most people move through life on autopilot, thinking about the past, worrying about the future, planning the next step, remembering the last one, rarely fully present. But awakening pulls attention into the present moment more often, and presence changes perception. Things that once seemed ordinary begin to feel meaningful, not because they changed, but because you did. A simple walk feels different when you're fully aware of it. A conversation feels different when you're fully listening. Even silence feels different when you're not trying to escape it. And slowly, something interesting begins to happen. You become more comfortable with stillness. Not always, but more than before. Because stillness stops feeling empty. It starts feeling full. Full of details. Full of sensations. Full of awareness. And this is one of the quieter aspects of awakening that rarely gets mentioned. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's incredibly subtle. A shift in attention. A shift in perception. A shift in presence. But alongside this stillness, another change begins. Distance. Not physical distance. Perceptual distance. You start seeing situations from the outside instead of only from the inside. Emotions still happen. Reactions still happen. But there's an added layer of awareness. Part of you experiences. Part of you observes. And that observer becomes stronger over time. At first, this can feel empowering, because it creates space between you and your reactions. Instead of being completely pulled into every emotion, you begin noticing them as they happen. Anger becomes something you observe. Fear becomes something you notice. Excitement becomes something you experience consciously. And this awareness creates choice. Choice where there once was only reaction. But awareness also comes with a cost. Because the more you see, the harder it becomes to pretend you don't. And sometimes, pretending made things easier. Ignoring certain patterns was easier than recognizing them. Believing certain assumptions was easier than questioning them. Following certain paths was easier than examining them. But awakening removes that comfort slowly. Not all at once, piece by piece, layer by layer, until eventually you realize that the way you see the world has fundamentally changed. And with that change comes responsibility. The responsibility of awareness. Because once you see clearly, your choices matter more. Not externally, internally. You become aware of the difference between acting consciously and acting automatically. And that awareness creates tension sometimes. Because conscious choices require effort. They require attention. They require presence. Autopilot is easier. But awareness keeps pulling you out of autopilot. Again and again. Until eventually, presence becomes more natural than distraction. But that transition isn't instant. It takes time. And during that time, you might feel caught between two ways of living. The old way, automatic and familiar. The new way, aware but sometimes uncertain. and that in-between space can feel unstable, like learning to walk in a new way. At first, it feels unnatural, then it feels possible, then eventually feels normal. But before it feels normal, it often feels strange, because awakening isn't just about gaining something new. It's also about letting go of something old. Old assumptions, old identities, old certainties, and letting go isn't always comfortable, even when it's necessary, because the familiar feels safe, even when it's limiting, and the unknown feels uncertain, even when it's freeing. So awakening often becomes a balance between comfort and growth, between stability and change, between certainty and discovery. And finding that balance is part of the journey, not a problem to solve, not an obstacle to remove, but a process to move through, slowly, naturally, in your own time, because awakening doesn't follow a schedule. It unfolds differently for everyone. Some people experience it gradually, others experience it suddenly. Some move through it quickly, others move through it slowly, but the patterns often feel familiar: questioning, observing, understanding, adjusting, growing, and repeating that cycle again at a deeper level, over and over, until awareness becomes part of who you are. Not something you try to do, but something you naturally are. And when that happens, the journey enters a new phase, a deeper one that goes beyond observation, into transformation. As awareness deepens, another realization begins to surface, one that is often uncomfortable to face. The idea that much of what we believe to be our choices may not have been entirely ours. First, this idea feels strange. After all, we make decisions every day. We choose what to eat. We choose what to watch. We choose what to say. We choose where to go. Choice seems obvious, but awakening begins to reveal something beneath those choices. Influence, subtle influence, invisible influence, the kind that shapes decisions before we even realize we're making them. You begin noticing how preferences form over time, how certain ideas repeat until they feel true, how environments shape beliefs, how experiences shape reactions. And slowly, you begin to see that the mind is not an isolated thing. It's connected to everything around it. Family influences it. Culture influences it. Education influences it. Experiences influence it. Even language influences it. The very words we use shape the way we think. And once you notice this, a question naturally arises. How much of what I think is truly mine? It's not an easy question, and it doesn't always have a simple answer, because identity is built from many layers, some chosen, some inherited, some absorbed without awareness. And awakening begins to peel back those layers one by one, not all at once, slowly, naturally, sometimes gently, sometimes intensely, and with each layer that falls away, you see a little more clearly. But clarity comes with uncertainty, because the more you question, the less solid things can seem at first. Beliefs that once felt permanent begin to feel flexible. Certainties begin to feel temporary. Assumptions begin to feel questionable. And this can create a strange feeling, like the ground beneath your feet is shifting slightly, not collapsing, just shifting, because awakening doesn't destroy reality. It changes your relationship with it. You begin seeing systems where you once saw randomness, patterns where you once saw coincidence, structures where you once saw chaos. And with this new perspective comes a deeper understanding of influence, not as something negative, but as something constant. Everything influences everything else. Every conversation changes something slightly. Every experience leaves a mark. Every memory shapes perception. Nothing exists in isolation, and that includes the self. The idea of a completely independent identity begins to feel less certain, because the self is always interacting, always adapting, always changing. And once you realize this, control begins to look different. not as absolute authority over life, but as participation within it. You're not separate from reality. You're part of it, moving with it, responding to it, shaping it in small ways while being shaped in return. And this realization can be freeing, but also humbling, because it removes the illusion of total control and replaces it with something more real. Influence instead of control, participation instead of dominance, flow instead of force. But the ego doesn't always like this realization. The ego prefers certainty, prefers control, prefers clear definitions. Awakening softens those definitions, not to weaken you, but to make you more flexible, more adaptable, more aware, because rigid identities struggle with change. Flexible identities move with it, and change is constant, always has been, always will be. Nothing stays exactly the same. Not the world, not circumstances, not people, not even you. You're constantly changing, even right now, thought by thought, moment by moment, experience by experience. And awakening brings awareness to that constant change. Instead of resisting it, you begin noticing it. Instead of fearing it, you begin understanding it. Instead of fighting it, you begin flowing with it. But this doesn't happen instantly. It's a gradual shift, sometimes smooth, sometimes uncomfortable, because letting go of control feels risky at first, even when the control was never fully there to begin with. It's like loosening your grip on something you thought you needed to hold tightly. At first, it feels unsafe, but eventually it feels natural, because you realize something important. You were never separate from the flow of life. You were always part of it, always moving with it, always changing with it. And awareness simply makes that process visible. Once visible, it can't be unseen. And once unseen things become seen, life begins to feel deeper, not necessarily easier, but deeper, more layered, more meaningful, because awareness adds dimension to experience. Moments stop being just moments. They become experiences you're fully present for. Choices stop being automatic. They become conscious. Reactions stop being instant. They become noticeable. And that space between stimulus and response, that tiny space, becomes incredibly powerful, because in that space lives freedom. Not absolute freedom, but real freedom. The freedom to choose how you respond. The freedom to pause. The freedom to observe. The freedom to act consciously. And those small freedoms add up over time, moment by moment, choice by choice, until eventually you realize something profound. Awakening isn't about escaping life. It's about entering it more fully, seeing more clearly, feeling more deeply, living more consciously. And that deeper way of living comes with both beauty and challenge, because awareness amplifies experience. The good feels richer. The difficult feels clearer. Nothing is numbed as much as before. Nothing is ignored as easily as before. Life becomes vivid, detailed, alive in a new way, and that vividness is part of the hidden cost, because clarity removes illusions, and illusions sometimes made things easier, simpler, more comfortable. But comfort isn't always growth, and growth isn't always comfortable. Awakening walks the line between the two, between comfort and truth, between illusion and clarity, between sleep and awareness. And once that journey truly begins, there's no real going back, only forward, deeper into understanding, deeper into awareness, deeper into being. By the time someone reaches this stage of awareness, something subtle has changed within them. Not necessarily on the surface. They may still live in the same place, talk to the same people, follow the same routines, but internally, something is different, because once you begin to see clearly, you can't fully return to the way things once appeared. It's like adjusting your eyes to the dark. First, everything seems unclear, but gradually shapes begin to form. Edges become visible. Movement becomes noticeable. And eventually, you realize the darkness was never empty. You just couldn't see within it before. Awareness works the same way. The world doesn't suddenly change overnight, but your perception of it does. You begin noticing patterns in conversations. You notice how people repeat the same worries, the same fears, the same beliefs, often without questioning them. You begin noticing how easily emotions spread between people, how one anxious voice can make a room tense, how one calm presence can make a room peaceful. And slowly you realize how deeply connected everything is. Thoughts influence emotions. Emotions influence actions. Actions influence outcomes. And outcomes reinforce beliefs. It's a cycle, a loop, repeating endlessly. Most people move through these loops unconsciously, not because they're incapable of awareness, but because awareness requires energy, tension, presence. And those things are often in short supply in the modern world. Distraction is everywhere. Constant noise, constant stimulation, constant movement, and distraction keeps awareness shallow. Because awareness requires stillness. It requires observation. It requires patience. And patience is something modern life rarely encourages. But the deeper someone goes into awareness, the more stillness becomes valuable. Silence becomes meaningful. Solitude becomes necessary, not as escape, but as space. Space to think, space to reflect, space to understand. Because understanding rarely happens in noise. It happens in quiet moments. Moments where thoughts can unfold naturally, without interruption, without pressure, without urgency. And in those quiet moments, insights begin to appear, not forced, not chased, just noticed. And those insights begin to reshape perception. You begin seeing cause and effect more clearly. You begin understanding reactions more deeply. You begin recognizing patterns more quickly, not as abstract ideas, but as lived experiences. And with that understanding comes responsibility. Because once you see something clearly, ignoring it becomes harder. Not impossible, but harder. You begin noticing when you're reacting automatically. You begin noticing when emotions take over. You begin noticing when habits repeat. And awareness creates a choice, a small pause, a moment where you can respond differently. And those moments begin to change things. Slowly, subtly, but steadily. Because change rarely happens in dramatic bursts. It happens in small adjustments repeated over time. A slightly calmer response, a slightly clearer decision, a slightly deeper understanding. Tiny shifts, accumulating, until one day, you realize you're no longer the same person you used to be. Not completely different, but different enough to notice, different enough to feel, different enough to understand. And that understanding often brings mixed emotions. Gratitude for growth, curiosity for what lies ahead. But sometimes, quiet sadness too, because growth often involves letting go. Letting go of old beliefs, old identities, old assumptions, old certainties, things that once felt permanent, things that once felt secure. And letting go is rarely painless, even when it's necessary, even when it's healthy, even when it leads to something better, because the familiar always feels safe, even when it's limiting, even when it's incomplete, even when it's based on illusion. The familiar feels comfortable. An awakening slowly replaces comfort with clarity. Not to take something away, but to reveal something deeper. Because beneath the layers of belief, beneath the layers of identity, beneath the layers of assumption, there is something quieter, something steady, something constant. Awareness itself, the simple ability to observe, to experience, to exist, before labels, before definitions, before expectations, just awareness, present, silent, watching. And many traditions throughout history have pointed toward this realization. Not always with the same words, not always with the same symbols, but often with the same direction. Inward, toward observation, toward understanding, toward presence. And the deeper someone goes into that inward journey, the simpler things often become. Not necessarily easier, but simpler, because complexity often comes from overthinking, overanalyzing, over-identifying, and awareness softens those tendencies, gradually, naturally, until life begins to feel less like a problem to solve, and more like something to experience, moment by moment, breath by breath, experience by experience, not perfectly, not constantly, but increasingly. And that may be the greatest hidden cost of awareness. Change is what matters. Things that once seemed urgent begin to feel temporary. Things that once seemed important begin to feel optional. Things that once felt overwhelming begin to feel manageable. Not because life becomes easier, but because perception becomes clearer. And clarity changes everything. It doesn't remove challenges. It doesn't remove uncertainty. It doesn't remove difficulty, but it removes unnecessary confusion. And sometimes, that's enough. Enough to move forward. Enough to keep growing. Enough to keep understanding. Because awakening isn't a destination. It's not a final state. It's not a permanent achievement. It's a process, an ongoing unfolding, a gradual deepening, a continuous seeing, layer after layer, moment after moment, insight after insight, and that process never truly ends, because there is always more to see, more to understand, more to experience, more to become aware of, and perhaps that's the final realization, that awareness itself is not a burden, but a responsibility, not a weight, but a gift, not an ending, but a beginning, the beginning of seeing clearly, the beginning of living consciously, the beginning of understanding deeply, and once that beginning truly starts, continues, quietly, steadily, endlessly.
No sudden realizations, no shocking discoveries, no overwhelming insights.
Just quiet. And for many people, this stage feels confusing, because in the beginning, awareness feels intense. Everything feels new. Everything feels deep. Everything feels meaningful. You question everything. You analyze everything. You try to understand everything. But eventually, that intensity fades. And when it fades, many people think something is wrong. They think they've lost the awareness. They think they've gone backwards. They think the awakening is over. But in reality, this is often the moment when real stability begins. Because intensity cannot last forever. The mind cannot remain in a constant state of questioning. The nervous system cannot stay alert forever. Eventually, balance has to return. And when balance returns, awareness becomes quieter, less dramatic, less emotional, less overwhelming, but also more stable, more natural, more real. It stops feeling like something special and starts feeling like something normal. And strangely enough, that normality can feel disappointing at first, because the mind expects transformation to feel extraordinary. It expects permanent clarity.
Permanent peace, permanent understanding.
But real growth rarely looks dramatic from the outside. Often it looks ordinary. You still wake up. You still eat. You still work. You still talk to people. You still deal with problems. Life continues as usual. But internally, there is more space, more patience, more awareness. You react a little slower. You listen a little deeper. You think a little clearer. Small changes, almost invisible, but meaningful, because real transformation often happens quietly, not in moments of excitement, but in moments of consistency, choosing calm instead of reaction, choosing understanding instead of judgment, choosing patience instead of frustration, again and again, until those choices become natural. And once they become natural, awareness stops feeling like effort. It becomes part of you, something you don't have to force, something you don't have to chase, something you don't have to prove. And that might be one of the biggest shifts of all. You stop needing to prove anything, not to others, not to yourself, not even to the world, because earlier in the journey, there is often a desire to share what you've discovered, to explain it, to express it, to help others see it. And sometimes that desire comes from a good place, but sometimes it also comes from the ego, from the need to feel understood, the need to feel validated, the need to feel certain. And over time, that need softens. You become more comfortable not having all the answers. You become more comfortable with uncertainty. You become more comfortable with not knowing. And that comfort changes how you move through life. You stop rushing to conclusions. You stop forcing meaning. You stop trying to control outcomes. Instead, you observe. You participate. You respond naturally. And this natural way of living creates a kind of quiet confidence. Not loud confidence, not arrogant confidence, but steady confidence. The kind that doesn't need attention, the kind that doesn't need approval, the kind that doesn't need recognition, because it comes from experience, from understanding, from growth, and from time, because time plays a huge role in awareness. Insights can happen quickly, but integration takes time. Understanding takes time. Change takes time, and patience becomes part of the process. You begin trusting the process, trusting that growth happens naturally, trusting that clarity comes gradually, trusting that understanding deepens over time, and that trust replaces urgency. You no longer feel like you have to figure everything out immediately. You no longer feel like you have to understand everything right now. You no longer feel like you have to reach some final state, because you begin to realize there may not be a final state, just deeper levels of understanding, deeper levels of awareness, deeper levels of clarity. And that realization can feel freeing, because it removes pressure, the pressure to arrive, the pressure to achieve, the pressure to become something special. Instead, you just continue, step by step, moment by moment, experience by experience, learning as you go, growing as you go, understanding as you go. And along the way, something interesting begins to happen. You start appreciating simple things more. Small moments become meaningful. Ordinary experiences become rich. Simple conversations become valuable. Quiet moments become peaceful. Not because the world changed, but because your attention changed. And attention shapes experience. What you notice becomes your reality. What you focus on becomes your world. And awareness changes what you notice. You begin noticing beauty more often, kindness more often, patterns more often, moments more often. Life becomes less automatic, less rushed, less unconscious, and more intentional, more present, more alive. And maybe that's what awareness was always pointing toward. Not escaping reality, but experiencing it fully. Not rejecting life, but understanding it. Not avoiding the world, but participating consciously. Because in the end, awareness is not about becoming someone else. It's about seeing clearly as you are. Not perfect, not finished, not complete, but aware, learning, growing, changing, just like everyone else. Because everyone is on some kind of journey. Everyone is learning something. Everyone is struggling with something. Everyone is growing in their own way, and recognizing that creates compassion. Real compassion. The kind that doesn't judge quickly. The kind that doesn't assume quickly. The kind that understands that everyone sees the world differently, based on their experiences, their beliefs, their fears, their hopes. And that understanding softens things. It softens reactions. It softens judgments. It softens expectations until life begins to feel less like a conflict and more like a shared experience. Different perspectives, different paths, different understandings, all existing together, and you become part of that, not separate from it, not above it, but within it, living, learning, experiencing, just like everyone else. And maybe that's the biggest realization of all. That awareness doesn't separate you from life. It reconnects you to it in a deeper way, calmer way, clearer way. And from that place, life continues, not perfectly, not easily, but meaningfully. And maybe that's enough.